Yeah, and real pleasure to be presenting to you guys this morning. So just a bit about us. I mentioned about being a tour operator. So we're independent, but we do are part of the Travel Network group. So we do have a really good backing, and that's where we get all of our financial protection, which is one of the most important things. So all of our customers are absolutely protected, and a lot of our business is all based around ethos, as you'll see as I go through this. We're very focused in on how we're like being careful about the environment. Obviously, when it comes to travel industry, flights are a notoriously difficult thing to offset, but there's been a bit of development in the last few weeks. I'm working with somebody where hopefully we're going to create our own offsetting or say program where we'll actually offset, and we will do it 100%, which doesn't involve planting trees. There we go. So I mentioned a little bit. So we work in the country with the teams, with teams in the country that we send people. So one of our strongest relationships I'll go through, and you'll see some lovely pictures later, is Sri Lanka, just as an example. We went out there. We scope out some of these experiences, and we then work with the guys that we work with to really put together, like, this is what we want, this is what we're about. We don't just want the mainstream. We want to get off the beaten track, and get those kind of real different experiences. And this is what we do with all of our suppliers. We sit down with them, we talk, and this is what we really want from our tours. And the more sustainable we can make them, the better. That obviously started from very minute things. So do you use plastic? How do you like plastic bottles in vans? Just as an example, in Sri Lanka, it's easy if you drink like I do. I'm usually about 8 pints down by 8 o'clock, because I like to be hydrated. That would be about 10 500 milliliter plastic bottles just in the morning. And so we've worked with our operators to be like, well, can you provide a source of water where people can just refill a water bottle? That saves about 400 plastic bottles a trip, just from something so simple, which everyone should be doing. As I said in my 60 seconds, partnerships we're really focused on partnerships. We love working with people, and people of the same ethos. We're all about kind of, like I said, the conservation, giving back. So in the countries, again, we've got the social economic aspect. Marine conservation is where my background comes from, which is what I'm really passionate about. But it's important to also combine kind of land, wildlife conservation, social economics. So you're giving back to the communities and ensuring that our operators use local people so they benefit, and it doesn't just go to big operators. So some of the things that we've been working on, just to give an example, as well as the walking holidays, yoga and wellness retreats. So somebody came to me a few months ago and like, we're running this retreat in Bali, we'd love to do this in Sri Lanka. And what we did, we went away, worked with our guys to be like, what are the best locations for this? These are the requirements. What would they recommend? And then we kind of work with them to then put the right things back to our contact to ensure that actually what they're getting and what their clients need is 100% met. And I know I'm going to be pressing on. So corporate social responsibility is a big part for us, and that's where I've just said, it's, as a travel business, it's not as I say, it's not easy to give back. And where the offsetting side comes from is the marine biology side. People don't know the marine ecosystems, the big and carbon store, but there's a lot more to being a positive operator than just offsetting carbon. It's more about having a positive impact. So there's pollution, there's so many different factors that are involved, and we try and cover all of these as much as we can. And we provide conservation trips. We just confirmed some, actually. So we've got some elephant conservation trips and marine conservation trips in Sri Lanka, which we're working directly with the guys there. and yeah, we're really proud to be offering those. And with those come a conservation pack. So if people know people that might want to get into conservation, there's a little course that people can do without necessarily going away, just to encourage people to learn just a bit more about it. So obvious things when it comes to being more sustainable in as a tour operator is to change the mode of travel, but this, as we know, that isn't possible in everything that we do. So one flight to Paris is the equivalent of 12 euros tunnel trips, just to put it in perspective. And one flight to Thailand, say, would, if you planted one tree, a tree when it's mature at 5 years old, roughly, would absorb 25 kilograms of carbon a year. So it would take about 400 years to offset that one flight to Thailand. So hence why we're looking at a lot more than planting trees. Planting trees is nice, but it has to be the right tree in the right place, even to absorb that amount of carbon and have a positive impact on the environment. So a lot of the partners we work with are already involved with conservation, because what we, with each partner, we really do try, and if they're already doing something, we can contribute to those projects, and if they're not, we work with them to put these projects together. So with one of our partners, we're actually actively working with them to put our own conservation programs physically, which would be a partnership with them together. So that's always the big ambition, and 9 years, 10 years on, we're getting there. And I mentioned this is the most difficult thing, is the offsetting and closing the loop. There's a loop in this offsetting role, which I know, sure, some of you will know. You can, because even planting trees, you can plant trees. A lot of those trees end up cut down. Actually, you end up releasing as much carbon as was absorbed. So what we're doing is we're combining the natural science, which is our part, and then we've got our tech partners, where we can literally, we'll be calculating how much carbon can be absorbed, how much is released, and the byproducts of what we're going to be doing, the positive impact of that as well. So when you do release some by doing that, actually, what's the positive impact? So it's very complicated, but very rewarding when we get it right. And this is what I really want to be as a tour operator, be climate positive, really have a positive impact with all the journeys, and the customers not have to think about it. That's just literally, we're doing that just as a groundwork of our kind of core ethos. And the good thing, or people would probably be really positive, or find really positive, is when I was at the World Travel Market about a few weeks ago now, beginning of November, almost everybody that I had a meeting with, or some of our ground teams that we already work with, and some new ones, sustainability was almost the first conversation that we had. Where you go back 2 or 3 years, it was not always, it was a little bit more hard work with some suppliers. It's really positive. It's positive to see that actually these changes are being made. So we do a few travel styles, and in Sri Lanka, as I've mentioned, I just wanted to go through and just show some of the alternatives. So as typical tour of Sri Lanka, if you're going to follow the tourist route, would be Sigiriya Rock, Dambulla Cave Temples, and Yala National Park, where it's got the highest population of leopards. But you can do, this is what we work hard to try and provide, is something a bit different. And you can see here in the middle, just some alternatives which are a lot less touristy. And in Kumana National Park, which is the alternative to Yala, you can get out and walk around. You don't just have to be in a van or in a jeep driving around the whole time, which is incredible. And not many people know you can do that in Sri Lanka, but we cater for people that really want the sustainable luxury as well. So it's not all about just the feel good and conservation. We really do try and mix it all in and provide that best experience for people. Just a bit more on some of the partnerships. Photographers are also a good one. because they quite often run tours in the UK. And
Steve?
I know that's it. That 10 minutes is right there. Let me whiz through just some pricing, just so people can see, because that's always one thing I don't do, that people say you should put some pricing in. There's Costa Rica. It's quite an expensive country, but just to show it can be very affordable. Some really good adventures. There's Europe. That's actually Lapland, so I chose a more expensive Europe trip to show some prices for. But again, it's a wonderful place. You can do it more in wilderness and not so much with where everybody goes at Christmas, that you as your stereotypical. And I'll set about some UK breaks. There's some really quirky places that you can visit. So yeah, thank you very much. Under 11 minutes. There we go.
Yeah, that's wow. What an awesome insight that was, Kriss. Thank you very much. Yes, that's certainly got my brain juices going this morning. Where am I going to jet set to next? But yeah, do we just round the room? Does anybody have a couple of minutes? If anyone has any questions for Kriss?
I was just going to say, those prices aren't that expensive, really, for an amazing holiday. But when you price up a trip to Europe separately, but it's not far off that, is it? Really,
Not
especially if you go to have a decent, go to a decent place to stay, and that's really good value.
No, 100%. Since the pandemic, prices of flights have gone up a lot, and there's not really, the term cheap flight doesn't really even exist with budget airlines anymore. So sometimes it can work out a lot cheaper to go long haul than overall than in Europe. So
thank you very much for doing that, Kriss. That was brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, I've just come back from India, and I would have loved to have known about you, Kriss, long before, because I bet you would have done a totally different take on our experience. Yeah, definitely worth knowing you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that, Heather.